Hi, everyone. I want to thank you all for joining our webinar. We're really excited to have this session with Eliran Peretz, the amazing Eliran Peretz. So Eliran is going to be talking about his role as Director of Account Management at the company he works for, a company called Riskified. And he's going to tell us more about the company and about what it actually means to be an account manager and how you can more easily transition into an account management role at the high-tech industry. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to present the amazing Eliran Peretz to you. Here we go. Oh, and one more thing, excuse me, sorry, before you start, Eliran, we do want to let you know that there will be time at the end of Eliran's lecture to ask questions. So feel free during the webinar to type in your questions in the Q&A tab below. And as soon as we have time for the questions, we will read off the questions and Eliran will answer any questions you have. So again, Eliran, I want to thank you for joining us and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ariella and Shlomi. Hi, everyone. I'm very excited to be here today. My name is Eliran and I'm the Director of Account Management at Riskified. The Jolt team was kind enough to invite me to speak in front of you. And I'm very happy to be here and share my experience about account management, how I get to this role, and share with you some more insights. So on the agenda today, we have kind of a packed agenda. I'll try to leave enough time for Q&A, obviously. I will start by sharing with you what Riskified does. Then I will take you through my journey to account management. I didn't start as an account manager. How the day-to-day looks like for an account manager. And I will end up by bringing some of the recruiting process and useful tips for success that I collaborated with our HR team who supported this effort. At the end, we will have time, as I said, for Q&A, but I'm also encourage you to reach out after the presentation if you have any more questions. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with Riskified. I know that the company was in the headlines recently as we went public in July. But Riskified was established 9 years ago in Tel Aviv. And at core, Riskified is a fraud prevention solution. And we're the pioneer of what we call the chargeback guarantee business model. And merchants are coming to us to improve their performance and shift the liability of fraud chargebacks. The numbers of fraud is increasing every year. And I just want to give you an example of a flow, as you can see on the presentation, how it looks like. So consider you're making an online purchase at one of the merchants in our network. The order goes to Riskified for fraud analysis. We are basically reviewing over 200 data points in less than 1 second, and we make an approve or decline decision. If an order is going that we approved came back as fraud chargeback, meaning someone made a purchase on my credit card and it wasn't me, we will be fully liable for the cost of these chargebacks. So what it means for the merchant is that we not only lifting sales by doing frictionless approving more legitimate transaction, we're doing this due to a vast network of merchants that we work with. We're also taking the fraud liability shift and reduce the merchant cost. So this is at core what Riskified does at a very, very high level. This is how it looks like from our product suite point of view. So the chargeback guarantee is the core solution of Riskified, but since then we developed more products based on our customers' needs. And while chargeback guarantee, as I said, is the core solution, we created a value loop that have a synergy between all our products that we added in the past few years. And it's really leading to one single goal to increase merchant revenue. So at the end of the day, we're sitting between the bottom line of the merchants. We're the one who's making the decision if to approve or decline an order for the merchant. As you can see, for example, because we already know at the logging stage which customers are legitimate, we have a product called Account Secure. We can also approve more at checkout because we gather the information all the way at the beginning of the checkout flow. So this is just an example of some of the products that we have at Risk. If you look at Riskified by the numbers, so today we review transactions worth over $60 billion a year from over 180 countries across the globe. This really enables us to create a rich network of linked consumer history. And with this information, we're able to assess consumer behaviors and how they shift over time between industries and across geographies. So if you see some of the merchants to the right, you can see Prada and Wish and Wayfair. These are all big names globally. And while we're not sharing information with those merchants, they are sitting in the same network. Like if you want to purchase shoes at Prada and you're going to come to Wish to make a small purchase, we will know already the history of your purchase, and we can say if you're a legitimate customer or not. So this is really helping merchants in our network to benefit from each other. Our focus is on large enterprise, as you can see from the names on the right. There are some names that we can't reveal due to confidentiality, but we're very grateful to partner with category leaders across industries and regions. I'm going to use a lot about the word merchant, but also a partner, because this is our approach. And due to that, we have an extremely high retention rate, 98% last year, and it's going to be through the same number this year, that we are really committed to bring value to our customers, and they continue to working with us. If we're looking at what we call the growth theme, we're talking about business development, account management, account executives. These roles that we're talking about today, they consist about a quarter of the company. So 25% of the company is dealing with growth, and account management is part of it. Okay, so after telling you about Riskified at a very high level, how did I get to Riskified? So I'm taking my journey a little bit back to the year of 2003 after my finishing the military service. But like many of you, my journey didn't start at tech. I worked my way to the tech world over time. I started as an operation and logistic manager at the Israeli Defense Mission to the US. We do have Defense Ministry has two missions, one in New York and one in Berlin, that basically purchasing all of the equipment to the military outside of Israel. And this role really gave me my first exposure to work and operate in a different language. That's the first part that was important. And also work with supplier and negotiate contracts. It was far from everything high-tech. You're working at the end of the day at a very governmental office, but you're getting some skills that helps you later on to leverage in job interviews, or have some fundamental skills that I was able to bring to the table later on in my career. I did both my degrees while in New York. I studied finance and international business and politics, but at the end of the day, after my graduation, I landed my first job in tech. It was basically a friend of a friend that told me that he is leaving the job in this company, pursuing his PhD, and I took this opportunity. My first role was in business development. And just as a side note, I think that the business development role is one of the best places to start your career in tech with limited to no experience. This is one of the first, if you want to put your foot in the door, I think that BD is one of the best roles to start with. So getting back to JHexagon, it's a small tech company based in New York that's working in the airline industry. My hiring manager was the owner of the company, called me a wild card. Wild card is a term that you can use when you don't know what's in the box. It seems like a good person, he's smart, he knows what he's doing, but he never worked in tech. So he took the risk on me, and basically, and when I have zero experience in tech, but he had a good hunch about how things and how good we can work together. I spent there almost 3 years. I learned a lot. I basically worked with two mega genius computer science scientists that had zero experience in business. I brought some of the skills that I acquired previously and some of common sense into this role. I was trying to develop this business. I learned a lot. I needed to invent the role for myself and face many first-time challenges that I never had before. When I finished the job at JHexagon, I moved to Israel with my family. I landed a job at ClickTel. Today it's called Content Square. They were acquired. This role was a bit kind of a support to what we call CSM. We discuss about customer support and AM. In many companies, they're using this name either account management or customer success. I can tell that specifically at Riskified, customer success is more of a support role, and account management is the client facing. Some companies will use customer success as what we see at Riskified as account management. So it can vary between companies. So I was doing an analytics job with a client-facing role. It really gave me like my first exposure to enterprise clients. And I really pushed for more and more exposure to working with clients and taking every opportunity I had. 3 years later came Riskified, and at this point in my career, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. So I started from BD, did some like I would call it like back office client-facing job, but I knew exactly what I want to do. I want to work with big clients, strategic ones, have an impact, and have a client-facing role. So this was my journey into Riskified. And I worked at Riskified. I did like the first 2.5 years as an enterprise account manager. And for the past year and a bit, I'm leading the account management team in Tel Aviv. So how does a day in the life of account manager looks like? While every day is different from the previous one, I think there are some core tasks that AM does on a daily basis. And in general, AM will manage on average between 5 to 15 accounts in his book of business. And the work with the merchant is very close, and that's what we call like partnership. So the first one is meeting with clients. Account manager is the face of Riskified, or for every company that is working for, he is in front of the client or the partner. And the AM main KPI, key performance indicator, is to build a long-lasting relationship and prevent the churn of the customer. At the end of the day, we want to see like a long life cycle between the company and the merchant that we work with. And due to the nature of this role, there are a lot of interactions and meetings between the two parties. The way we see it, like every meeting is an opportunity to bring and show value to the merchant, deepen their relationship, and get a valuable feedback for internal use. Our product team, analytics, they don't talk to the merchant the way, the frequency that we are talking with the merchant. And for them, getting all this feedback about a product, what works, what doesn't work, is very, very crucial. So we're using this also not only for our day-to-day work, but also to provide feedback to our internal teams. The meeting cadence between us can vary. With large merchants, it can be weekly or even a few times a week, some bi-weekly, some monthly. In addition to that, we are visiting merchants on site. It was mostly right pre-COVID, but now we're starting to get back into like visiting merchants on site. It has like a very, very valuable impact of meeting more new people and coming to seeing them in their offices. We perform QBR. QBR is quarterly business review. Every quarter, we will meet the clients and go over performance, share some product updates, and we'll talk about any other open issues we have with them. Internal work, the AM team is one of the few teams, I would say, that in the company that needs to interact and work together successfully with all other departments. So interpersonal skills, the ability to push people for the same goal is super important for the AM. And we're working with, as I said, like with almost every department, and you need to really collaborate well with everyone. Strategic planning. Towards the end of the year, my team will come and sit with me, and we'll start to build a long-term plan per account, in which we will revisit throughout the year and make the necessary adjustments. So this is like an ongoing work to see like what changed and how can we adjust to those changes. The last one is performance overview. AM needs to ensure that we are hitting our SLA. SLA is service level agreement. We have agreements with every merchant, every partner about specific performance or how we should perform. So this is something that we need to ensure on the day-to-day, making sure that the fraud level is low and that the performance is in good place. If you find all of this interesting, let me tell you more about the hiring process and what we are looking for with potential candidates. So I was writing here like a short but thorough. Like we're really trying to simplify the hiring process for our candidates, and therefore we shorten the interview cycle. If you see, it's when I joined Riskified, you could have add like 2 more stages into this diagram, but we're trying to cut it down and make it more efficient for both parties. So if you're looking at the first stage, there is the application review. You're submitting the application to the Riskified careers page, and then it's getting into our system. The second step will be a recruiter interview, but before that, the recruiter will review those applications and will decide who can be a good candidate for this role. In a few slides, or even in this one, I will get a little bit more into the details of like what we are looking for. But once the recruiter is calling you for an interview, there is like a 30 to 45 minutes interview just to get to know the candidate, to make sure that whatever reflects on the CV is really the person that we're talking to make sure that there is a match between the two. And once everything is good, and we can see that what we're looking for in the candidates are can be found during this call, that the screening, I would call it, that the recruiter is doing. The next stage would be hiring manager. In this case, it will be me. And this interview is going to be about 45 minutes, in which prior to the interview, you have like 30 minutes to work on an analytical case study. We're doing 45 minutes of like a very open talk to get to know the candidate. And in the last 15 minutes, we will review the analytical test. There is no like right or wrong answer. It's basically trying to understand your thought process, how you analyze the numbers, because the role itself, and I'll get to it, is also very, very much analytical. Once you're passing this stage, there is a VP. I'm reporting to the VP of Account Management in New York. The next stage will be a VP interview plus a case study that you'll do on the spot. You're going to see it for the first time, and you're going to start to discuss the case study. And if everything goes well, we'll ask you for references, and the HR will reach out to your references to get some more input into the persona. I can tell that in my last hiring round, we received almost 1,200 CVs for one opening. So together with our HR, we gather some of the what basically we are looking when we are reviewing the applications to find the right candidate for this specific role. So I can tell that analytical degree or analytical background is very important. Experience working with consulting companies, in many cases, the AM is the subject matter. Even if I'm working with a large client as Walmart, for example, I will be a subject matter expert in everything related to fraud and payments. So being some type of a consultant to the merchants regarding the payment and fraud is key. Fluent in English, this is a must. This is how we communicate. All of our merchants are basically speak English, so we don't communicate with anyone in Hebrew. If you have any additional languages that are relevant to the region that we are operating in, that's a big plus. Sales background is an advantage. I can tell that in my team specifically, there is no one with direct sales background, but it definitely helps. International multicultural background. So I mentioned I lived in New York. I studied abroad. I worked in like different companies. This is something that can definitely stand out. Proven SaaS experience, software as a service. This is what Riskified does, software as a service. Working in similar companies or being exposed to SaaS can definitely help, because at the end of the day, there are a lot of similarities between these companies, and that's something that can really, really help. Experience of working with enterprise global clients. Before I came to Riskified, I worked closely with Walmart, Costco, and Vodafone. So when I was interviewing to Riskified, just mentioning those names and the exposure I had working with them definitely helped me to stand out and share my story. So these are like, I would say, like some of the tips that we can provide about what's important when reviewing the CV in the first stage, and we'll provide more tips around that as well. So when we're looking about, like, first of all, when reviewing the CV, as I mentioned, 1,200 CVs, here are some of the basic tips from our amazing HR team, like what you should look into. So even if you have your CV today, take a look at night and go over these like key tips on like how can you improve your CV. Writing the document in English. It might sound like very obvious, but we got like some CVs in Hebrew, for example, or in other languages. So write your document in English. If you're aiming for a high-tech position, ensure you're sending a CV in English. If you're not a native speaker like myself, ask a friend to review your resume and highlight every grammar mistakes. You'll be surprised how many times people are trying to rush and submit their CV and making some really, really crucial mistakes in their CV that seems to be minor, but once you catch them, it says also a little bit, it gives you a glimpse about who's the person behind the CV. So really review your document before sending it. In most cases, as I said, a Hebrew document won't pass the first screening. Having like a one focus page, try to focus. Add your experience in the last 6 years. Don't take me all the way back to your kindergarten experience or stuff like that. Be very focused about where you've been for the past 6 years. If you have some super relevant information from this past 7 or 8 years, that's fine. It's not like a hard rule, but you need to use your common sense here. Write the most relevant information to all the specific role, to this specific role. The recruiter will have like maybe 30 seconds to review your CV, and you need to amaze them in these 30 seconds. You need to have something that will stand out. Visuality. So we expect candidates to give thoughts, and don't underestimate this document. As I said, your resume will open the first door. So once you submit it, you need to understand this is the first step in your career path for this specific company. So make sure that this is your resume counts. Recruiters are looking for detail-oriented candidates. This is something they can see from a very early stage. No need to use like creative designs or colors, and you can also give up on the picture. This is not like giving you any like big plus when screening the CV. Using keywords, be decisive to which position you're applying. So if you're applying for like an AM, but also you think you want to apply for a BD, don't shoot arrows in all directions. Like have like a CV that match an AM role with your experience that's relevant to AM role, and look at the job description. Mark the keywords that you think will help you stand out from the crowd. Another tip is to share the international experience you have. Tell us about anything that will help us understand your multicultural background and international perspective. Technical skills and language. If you have any, highlight them. I think it's important in today's world. People know like to write code. People know to do like some really cool stuff that are not necessarily related to the job, but can help you like open the door, can help you like make the interviewer like more interested in like who you are, who is the persona behind it. Like why he's trying to apply for an account manager, like a business role, but he's also doing code. He seems to be like interesting guy. Like let's try and see like what he has to say. You have to step into the recruiter's shoes. When you write your resume, or think about like what your recruiter is looking for, what will catch their eye. Ensure you aligned also with the role requirements and outlined all the relevant points. This is very similar to also how we work with merchants. When we're working as account managers, and this is like another glimpse of like the role itself, we think like a merchant. If I have like some bad news to deliver to the merchant, I will try to see like what will be the best way for me to be like, how do I see it from his position? How should I deliver? Like, how should I push back on something that they requested that they're not going to like, for example, that I can't deliver right now? How they're going to see it from how can I see it from the merchant perspective? So same logic with recruiting. Like think how the recruiter like is going to look at your resume. Try to see like what will work out and put it in your resume and highlight it. I think this is the last slide. So one of the things that I think are important to understand that obviously I didn't start my role as an account manager. As I show you, I've started from something completely like low tech governmental position, and I worked my way through like into the tech industry. But there are still like some non-technical skills that the account manager needs, and I think that you can find that many of us have on the day-to-day, but you can highlight them because they can bring value. Communication skills. Account manager is a client-facing role, so you work very, very closely with customers from all over the world. Fluency in English is required. Also, we are looking for candidates who are good listeners and communicators, candidates who can understand the client need, while also communicating the business value all along the line. So this is super crucial. And this has got nothing to do with working in tech. You can do it in every work that you had like previously that is not related to tech, communication skills. Next one is interpersonal skills. This is also crucial for this role. You need to be able to build relationship with people, not just communicating effectively. As I said, like at the end of the day, we're looking for a really, really long-term relationship with these merchants and the organization. So you need to create and maintain this long-term relationship with the clients and have the ability to be assertive at times, because it doesn't mean that you're working for the client. At the end of the day, I'm representing Riskified. I will do everything in the best of my ability to provide to the client, but sometimes there will be some areas that things will contradict. So you need to be assertive, but also personal when you need to push back. And you need to be open for feedback, both from the team and both from our merchants. So this is something that we're looking for as well. Coachability. This is more like, I would say, internally. For me as a team lead, I'm working with an amazing team, and the ability for them to learn and adjust quickly, receive feedback, understand and apply continuous professional feedback is very important. This is something that is ongoing. We are always talking about like, how can we improve? What can be done better? Really highlight the good things, but also the thing that needs to be improved. And this is part of the coachability process in order to be successful in this role. Analytical skills, as I mentioned, account management is a strategic role at Riskified, and we're playing a significant role in the company's growth. Our ability to analyze the client status, the numbers, to crunch the numbers and to come to some insights that no one basically see on the surface is very vital. Riskified itself as a company, as a machine learning company, is a very data-driven company. So all business strategies and decisions are determined by our clients' numbers. This is how we drive our business forward. I think that we actually have some good time for questions. I hope you guys have, but I hope that this really webinar gave you some valuable information about how the AM role looks like. And I will open the floor for any questions you might have. And as I mentioned before, I don't know if, Ariella, if you're sharing the presentation, you'll have links both for my email, personal email, work email, sorry. And Orit from our HR team was kind enough to give her a LinkedIn account so you can connect with her as well if you find anything relevant within Riskified. So take advantage of like this opportunity, and we'll be more than happy to help and to give some tips. And if you have any other questions, this is the time.
First of all, Eliran, I want to say thank you so much for this informative presentation. I think not only me, but all our Jolt students and alumni who participated in the webinar, I think they could learn a lot from you, not just about the role itself, which you gave a lot of information about, but your transition and your story, how you transitioned into tech is a very interesting one, and one that I think a lot of our graduates and students can relate to. So I really want to take this opportunity to thank you for sharing your story with us and really kind of telling us about the journey into account management. We do have a few questions. The first question we have, and it's more of a clarification, you kept mentioning BD, and just to clarify, when you mean like when you talked about entering in a BD role, you meant the business development role as a business development representative, or is it more of a biz dev client-facing role? Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so I think it's also one of those roles that can be a bit varied between companies. So we do have BDs, which is business development. I think that the initial part of this job is to really find the right leads that will move into the account executive, to the sales team. They do, first of all, I think, doing a lot of research, trying to research companies, trying to find the right people. And then they're going into a lot of conferences, and this is like their first exposure into clients. They don't work directly with the clients, but they're trying to get into the right people and to introduce them to the next step in the growth team, which is like the account executive. That's why I think that people that want to get like an entry-level position in the tech industry, business development is one of those roles that can give you like getting into the first step, and then obviously develop internally. Unless I know a lot of people that can be an amazing AMs, but they're also an amazing BDs because they chose to do like business development. They like this job better. It doesn't mean that it's an entry-level job at all levels, but it's definitely one of those jobs that can give you the opportunity to start and build your career in tech.
Amazing. So informative and so helpful. Thank you. We have a few more questions. One of our POMA grad alumni, Nathan Rubin, wanted to ask, you did mention several times that SAS Experience is necessary as well as an advantage, but a lot of our students and our graduates don't necessarily come with previous SAS experience. It's something that they learn throughout the course, but not necessarily have the actual work experience. Can you maybe talk about what those people can do to make themselves more attractive to Riskified as candidates?
Yeah, I think that I don't know the curriculum of your courses, but if learning about SAS, you can get a little bit of understanding of like how we operate, how we work. Like we work with like different tools like Jira and Confluence, and how the system itself works, and how we like trying to navigate between like requests for the software itself. Getting some like even like a broad understanding of that can help you like navigate the conversation with HR and later on with the hiring manager. So I think that it's not super crucial. It's a big plus, as I said. Like, it's not like it won't determine if someone is a good candidate or not. But working in companies with similar environment can definitely be an advantage because you know more or less how the operation looks like. And I can tell from my experience, and like when I'm like interviewing, I don't want. I will choose not to take someone that comes that he knows everything already, because then it's really hard to change his mindset. And we are very flexible in the way we look at things. And I don't want to bring someone that has like 10 years of experience, but is not willing to be like coachable, as I mentioned. And that really makes the work a bit different and hard because we're working in certain ways that gives flexibility to the employee, but we also have like some things that we don't really change because these are like the core of the business. So as I said, it's an advantage, but also taking someone that has like almost zero experience and teaching him and seeing that he has all the capabilities to make him like a great AM or a great BD or a great AE can be also a plus. It's all about like how you market yourself and like what do you bring to the table that will make the HR recruiter and later on the hiring manager feel comfortable enough that this is someone that I can grow with. Like same as I had at Hexagon, I started from scratch, and then I had to prove myself every day that I was the right choice, not only like the wild card that they referred me to.
Amazing, great. That was very informative as well. One of our graduates wants to know, Tomer Nachmias wants to know, what is the difference between an account manager and a customer success manager at Riskified? And even if you have that information in general, not just at Riskified.
Yeah, so I can tell that, Tomer, when I worked at ClickTel, customer success manager was an AM the way I see it today. And at Riskified, customer success manager, it's basically support. So our support team is helping us in the back end, solving tickets. They have like 24/7 availability. So if like my merchant, for example, knows that there is an issue, they will always CC support. And when I'm like what I call like off the grid, support will definitely answer the ticket and will help them. So they're dealing like with more like day-to-day tasks, like if someone doesn't work, if like immediate things, nothing strategic, nothing like too big. They don't meet the clients face to face. They don't work with them closely, but they do need to know how to communicate well with our clients. They need to understand sensitivities sometimes. They do need to consult with the AM, but they're not like a client-facing role. It's more of a support in the back end.
Is that specifically for Riskified, or is that something that you know that's a general thing in most high-tech companies?
Some tech companies will call it like CSM as an account manager, and then they will have like customer support, CS. So I think it varies between companies. Companies, I think, always evaluate like how should I call like the account manager role? It's like CSM, consulting, account manager. It varies between companies, and I think that when you look at the job description, you can understand what they are referring to. If it's a pure support role, you will be able to see it like right away versus like client-facing role.
That's very important advice, making sure that you read into and look at the job description. Thank you. Another one of our graduates, Daniel Shirinov, first of all, wanted to thank you for your time and knowledge, and wanted to know how he can land a position like an account manager without the international experience that you were referring to.
It's a tough one. I'll be very honest, Danielle. This is like something that company like Riskified today, like we barely have like any clients in Israel. We do have few ones, but an account manager will hold like a very diverse book of business that will have like from maybe one or two Israeli companies, but most of them are going to be like European or Asian or American companies. So having like the language and the ability to like have some multicultural experience is important. Like it's something that we at the position that Riskified is today, it's hard to bring someone that are very, I'm very like open and frank with you, at the very entry level. I think that the step to get into like company like Riskified in like 2 or 3 years, this is the journey that I did as well, to start with a small like startup company and bring like all the values that you have to the table. Start with like a small company that building itself and looking for like someone at the entry level, and then for the second and third position that you'll be in, I believe it will be much easier for you to talk about your experience, to share like what you did, like how you work with international customers, and land the next job like after like the second or third round.
When you refer to the international experience, is it possible to gain that experience through the Israeli market expanding globally? Like if someone was working for an Israeli high-tech company with international clients, would that count as international experience? Or is it physically the relocation?
No, I don't think it's physically the relocation. When I worked in New York for the first tech company, I worked like with American companies like airlines, airports and stuff. So for me, yeah, it was international experience. When I came to ClickTel, I don't know how much they look into like me working with, it could be like into airlines. Maybe they found some other skills that they wanted to have in the position of an analyst, customer facing analyst. But what I gathered in ClickTel is like basically working with companies like Walmart and Costco and Vodafone. I can tell that I was basically pushing to get into these like areas of meeting clients. And I was lucky enough to have like an amazing VP that was, trying to help me pursuing like my dream of like working with clients. And due to that, I spent like a week and a half in Walmart headquarters during like Black Friday, Cyber Monday, working with their electronics division for like 2 weeks. So this is something that I was lucky enough, but also pushed for like to get into these opportunities, help me like to, when I'm working, interviewing to Riskified or like other companies back then, to share like such stories. And I think it makes like the impact, like these guys spent like a week and a half, 2 weeks with VP of electronics in Walmart. He probably knows like how to communicate with them, how to work with them. He probably like was exposed to like some interesting insights within these companies, and that's valuable. But that's you like pushing to get into these like areas, and I think it's important.
Amazing. We have time for one final question, unfortunately. So this is going to be the last question. And Eliran, if you don't mind just resharing your screen so that everybody can see your HR email and your work email,
Sure.
because just so they have it so they can write it down. And for the final question, one of our graduates was wondering if your company would hire someone who, in terms of their transition into high tech, come with more experience, being that they're a bit older than someone who's like freshly transitioning into high tech. Is that something that you guys would consider?
Yeah, I think this is like age is not a barrier at Riskified. We have, and that's something that I was also concerned about, like when I was in my 20s. Like how the tech industry will look like in 20, 30 years. Is that still going to be like an industry only for like young people? Because don't forget that the boom of the internet started like when people were in their 20s, like Mark Zuckerberg and all like Google people. Today they're like in their 40s and 50s. So I think that the tech industry is basically accepting everyone, and age is not like really something that we're like considering or like disqualifying someone for. If someone is a good fit, is a good fit no matter what the age is. So everyone is welcome.
Amazing. All right, perfect. So I just want to make sure that everyone has a minute to write down the emails. So I will take this opportunity, Eliran, to thank you personally, myself and all of us here at Jolt. We want to thank you for your time and your dedication. This presentation and webinar was extremely informative and extremely valuable. I know it was to me, and I'm sure it was to everyone here watching. It was a pleasure and really enjoyable listening to you. And we again, thank you so much. I hope you have a great weekend. And to everyone else, thank you very much for coming and joining us. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and I hope you all gained what you wanted from this webinar. And I wish all of us the best of luck. Thank you, Eliran. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.